Hey guys, Stockaholics, thanks for being here today. The death of the Western oil major. In this video, I will be talking about why I may never invest in a Western oil major again, unless some of their behaviors, their self-destructive tendencies happen to change sometime in the future. About a week or so ago, I made a video talking about the average cost curve, the supply cost curve that under normal conditions would cause oil prices to be in a normal range. I came to the conclusion that a normal price of oil is somewhere between $50 and $60. If you listen to a lot of oil bulls out there, a lot of what I'm talking about in this video on why these Western oil companies are uninvestable is actually the bull case for oil, and why they think that there is the possibility that there is some very high oil prices in the future. Oil is an amazing substance. In 1 barrel of oil, there is the equivalent energy of thousands of hours of man-hour physical labor. It is wireless. It is reliable. You can take a barrel of oil, transport it anywhere in the world, and use that as an energy source. It allows nations all around the world to produce far more than they consume. It's used in our infrastructure. It's used in our roads. It is the byproducts are used in plastics that allow for health innovation. It is also used in technology. It gives economies competitive advantages. The very fabric of our species of competition between nations. This substance gives us the power to compete amongst each other, become more innovative. It is the root. It is the soul of capitalism in many respects. What I just did there is I gave you guys a pitch on the benefits of crude oil. I want to challenge you. Have any of you heard something similar like that from an oil company? Have you ever heard a Western oil major who is proud to supply what they supply, is proud to do what they do? Instead, what you often hear from these oil companies, instead of being proud or letting the public know how awesome their product is, the advantages of it, instead they are doing much the opposite. They are proud to show that they are transforming, that they are no longer being oil producers. They're doing something else instead. So, in my opinion, this doesn't make a lot of sense. Oil companies transforming into solar or wind companies is a lot like McDonald's transforming into a gym franchise. These guys, McDonald's, they have an awesome products. They have built into a multinational corporation through selling a specific kind of product, that is burgers, French fries, things like that. If McDonald's suddenly decided, you know what, we are concerned about the health implications of our product. By 2050, we no longer want to sell burgers. We instead will completely transform our business into a global multinational gym corporation. I want to ask this question. How many of the things that led to success in building this kind of franchise would lead to success in building a gym franchise? That's a lot what I see in a lot of these Western oil majors. Instead of trying to do what they've already done or get better at it or produce it in a more efficient way or in a more environmental fashion, in any kind of way that would be bettering their specific product, instead they are trying to transform the core of their business into something completely else. And to me, that makes absolutely no sense. And by the way, I don't have anything against windmills and solar panels. These kinds of things do have a place in an energy mix in the future, albeit a very small one relative to some other kinds of energy sources. And by the way, oil, only a fraction of it is used in electricity production, right? So these aren't necessarily going to replace other ones. In fact, they'll probably be additive to oil use in the future, right? But I wanted to think about this question for a second. What does real oil innovation look like? Let's say that I was interested in innovation. I was thinking about the future. What would I look for in an oil company? Would it be that they're getting involved in rebuildable technology? To me, probably not. Instead, I might look for things like they are developing more biodegradable plastics, or they are developing new plastics that might be have specific properties that are useful in all kinds of applications. They might use that to develop different technologies we don't even know about. They might work on making their supply chains more efficient. They might develop technologies that is more extractively efficient. They may develop technologies related to the oil industry that are more environmentally friendly. All of these kinds of ideas would provide value to shareholders, investors, the communities at large, and increase the probability that these companies will remain competitive and successful in the long run. Transforming their business into something completely different, I think, has the chance of doing the opposite. I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about with some of these companies. I think a lot of these Western oil majors are confused. They don't know what they are anymore. They don't know what they're doing. This is Exxon Mobil's YouTube page. Okay, and if we look at some of the videos on here, it kind of paints a theme for their business. And in my mind, when I'm looking at this as a potential oil investor, the core thing that I'm thinking about is how is this going to make this company more profitable? All right. So let's look at some of these videos. Researching a sustainable energy solution. Okay. Does that increase the profitability of your company? Is that going to attract new investors to your company? I don't know. Reducing carbon emissions. Okay. How does that help your business? Is that your responsibility, or is that the consumers or government's responsibility? Energy opportunity and batteries. You guys a battery producer now? Is that what we're doing? Okay. Using energy alternatives. So let's, instead of focus on promoting our product, let's promote other people's products. Okay. Carbon capture research. Okay. Does that make your business profitable? It sounds expensive to me. Peanut butter and jelly. Renewables. Okay. I'm not sure what that is. So when I'm looking at this as an investor, right, I just see a confused company. Think about the two kinds of, they're trying to attract two groups of investors the way I see it, right? They want oil investors, people like me that are thinking about the usefulness of the product, profitability, how it's going to make money. And then they're trying to attract a new investor, one that is more hip and young and is innovative, is concerned with green technologies, right? Let me ask you guys a question. Do you think any of these people are going to want to invest in an oil company? Regardless, right? If I want to invest in green technology, any solar panels, wind, am I going to invest in Exxon? Probably not, right? It's an oil company, right? So it makes no sense. Really, they're just alienating their entire investor base, and it's signaling to me that they're likely to become more and more unprofitable. BP, right? BP is probably the Western oil major with the most hardcore in terms of view of long-term oil demand decline. They're kind of leading the front in this Western zeitgeist, yeah? And look at their top video over here, the case for greening companies. So let's talk about how to, change our business. Christmas trees, right? How is this gonna make investors money, right? How is this going to become profitable? I don't know. And I don't think you know either. I think that you guys have a long-term, you guys have no future. You're just going to be replaced by somebody that is more efficient and knows what they're doing. Instead of trying to share to the public why they are beneficial to the public, these oil companies, instead, what they are trying to do, which we can see a lot on their YouTube channels, is that they are going with a strategy of appeasement. They're trying to make the people that don't like them happy. And no matter what they do, they will never succeed in that, because at their core, they are an oil company, right? And even though they're trying to give these people concessions, trying to make the public happy, it's going nowhere. There's like a saying, it says, if you give an inch, your enemy will take a mile, right? So recently, this is an article from Reuters, a few significant events taking place in some of these companies. A tiny hedge fund dealt a major blow to Exxon Mobil Corp on Wednesday, unseating at least two board members in a bid to force the company's leadership to reckon with the risk of failing to adjust its business strategy to match global efforts to combat climate change. They are failing to adjust their business to the way they want their business to be. Okay. The success by hedge fund engine number one in its showdown with Exxon shocked an energy industry struggling to address growing investor concerns about global warming. And again, I would suggest that investors don't invest in oil companies because they are primarily concerned with that. They would invest in these companies because they are concerned with profitability and making whether it's a good investment or not, right? It happened on the same day activists scored a big win against another oil major, Royal Dutch Shell. A Dutch court ordered the company to drastically deepen pledge cuts to greenhouse gas emissions. What this reminds me of is a quote from Winston Churchill. An appeaser is one who feeds a crocodile hoping it will eat him last. What these guys are trying to do is they are trying to appease people that will never like them, no matter what they do, right? Instead, they need to do the opposite. They need to show pride in what they do. They need to completely rebrand themselves as the strength of industry, the strength of nations. What they need to extol their product. Someday, oil will be replaced by another technology, but oil demand is going nowhere but up in the meantime until something more economical replaces it. These are several articles from The Economists dating back to 1999. We may think that all of these ideas that we have today about speculating the end of oil, they're new. These have been going on for a very long time. In 1999, The Economist speculated that oil was likely on the decline with an article entitled Drowning in Oil. 2003, a very aggressive article entitled The End of the Oil Age. In 2005, an article called The Oilaholics. 2008, Recoil. This is when oil prices were starting to get very high. The Economist, 2013, Yesterday's Fuel. If you had invested in oil during when any of these articles were published, you would have made a tremendous amount of money. These were actually contrarian signals. So when I think about all of the long-term effects of all of these green ideas, especially when they're getting into the oil sector, I really understand the case, the bull case, the probability of oil prices going high in the future, I think is quite likely, right? And we also think about a technology that's going to come along and replace these substances, these oil companies. This innovation is not going to come from these oil companies themselves. In fact, they're disincentivized by their very business structure to create it, right? So when these companies are trying to do that, when they're using shareholder money to kind of achieve this kind of innovation, it's just a drain on themselves. And what I think is likely with a lot of these Western oil companies is that they're going to put themselves out of business and they're going to allow their competition to take root. Anyway, I hope you guys found this video useful, and I'll see you guys soon.